Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit in lieu of our missing class this week. While I'm in a conference in Minneapolis, I want to talk to you a little bit about your evaluative bibliography, constructing it, how to organize it, what you're going to be putting in there, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I'll prepare another video on your presentation requirements. Okay, so I'm going to ask that you watch both of these videos. So the sample evaluative bibliography, the entry that you have on the assignment sheet on Canvas, is this one from Downs and Wardle. It's an essay called Teaching About Writing, Writing Misconceptions. The subtitle is Re-envisioning First-Year Composition as Introduction to Writing Studies. Okay, this is published in the Scholarly Journal, College Composition and Communication, volume 58, number 4 from 2007. On these page numbers, I found it in this database, and this is when I accessed it. Okay, so first, when you're working on your evaluative bibliography, you're going to have this section, which is your bibliographic entry. Okay, this is what goes into a works cited page. Okay? And incidentally, you would also cite this in text with Downs and Wardle, and then the specific page number that you found the quote on. Okay, so it would look like this. Okay, Downs and Wardle, and then the page that you're working with. If, of course, you're only working with one source, as you are in an evaluative bibliography, for each one you're only working with one source, you don't need to put the author's information in there because you will have already introduced them here, and it's clear that you are only working with this one source in your annotation. Okay, so the annotated bibliography, the evaluative annotated bibliography, has two portions of it, right? You have the bibliographic entry, and then you have the annotation itself. Okay, now this annotation is fairly lengthy. Your annotation should be fairly lengthy. They need to give a complete sense of the whole of your essay, okay, the essay that you found. Now we're working with complicated essays, okay? This one is over 30 pages long, okay? Yours may not be 30 pages, but they should be substantial, okay? Think about the articles that we read in class for Project 2, okay? They need to be meaty, they need to make an argument, they need to support that argument fully, they need to be reputable, they need to have an extensive source list, and so on, okay? So anything less than 10 pages, okay, you want to really take a good look at. Okay, it may not be what you want it to be. Okay, so after you have done your works cited entry, your bibliographic entry here, you'll want to write 3 paragraphs. Okay, 1, right, 2, and 3. Okay, you want to write 3 paragraphs. In each of your paragraphs, you're going to be doing something different. In the first paragraph, okay, you're giving me basically a summary. Okay, a very condensed summary. Remember what the essays we read in the past say about summaries. It's a compression of the entire text, okay, into something that is more than 50% of the whole. Okay, so more than 50% compressed. So you're writing a very, very specific and condensed summary, but it should be of the whole, okay, not of one particular part. Okay. So in this article, Doug Downs and Elizabeth Wardle propose a new model for first-year writing classes. Okay? They argue that these classes should take writing studies as their content and that doing so will not only benefit students, but the discipline itself. They contend that the topic of the writing class should be a study of writing. Students should read and discuss and research issues involving, quote, writing, rhetoric, language, and literacy, end quote. Now, this first part here is a statement of topic and thesis, okay? So the first sentence identifies the author and states the general topic, what they're doing. The second 2 sentences is the argument condensed, okay? The summary goes on, though, okay, to talk about the details of that argument. Okay. The authors cite research that shows that students are not transferring the lessons they learned in first-year writing classes to other writing situations, and they believe it's because these first-year writing lessons don't necessarily apply to other situations. Notice the page span here. This is telling you that that's where that summary is coming from. Okay? They contend that a better strategy would be to teach, quote, a realistic and useful conception of writing, perhaps the most significant of which is that writing is neither basic nor universal, but content and context contingent and irreducibly complex. Okay? So again, this is the part of the refining the argument. Okay, they cite research here that does this, and then they say, here's our solution to it. Okay, our better strategy is one that acknowledges this and requires that students study and write about writing rather than about other topics. Okay, because in order to understand, they argue that writing is neither basic nor universal. You have to have courses that encourage students to study writing. Okay. And then finally, they talk about this third portion. They talk about the success of their own pilot writing courses, providing case studies that show that the curriculum works for underprepared students as well as honor students. Okay, so this is kind of the outcomes section. Okay, and again here, the whole thing has been condensed. Okay, now you can tell that the main part of the argumentative summary, all right, is really from these pages, 556 to 558. So it's really in the span of 2 pages that the real kind of meat of the argument is, okay? But this summary doesn't just stop there. It talks about the whole, okay? It sets up the topic, right? And it talks about what they did to sort of embody their ideas, okay? So that's the first paragraph, okay? It should be a complete summary, okay, of the whole. The second paragraph looks at rhetorical analysis, okay? It looks at the essay as an essay, okay? Who is the article aimed at? The article is aimed at writing teachers, okay? What is the article's goal? Okay, the article's goal is to convince that audience to adopt the curriculum that they suggest, okay? What else does it do? Well, it addresses debates about the low status of the discipline of composition in the academy, okay? So what is this article doing, right? Who is it speaking to? What is its goal, okay? The article is arranged in this manner, first to argue for the curriculum using already published and accepted research, and then it describes in detail the proposed curriculum, reports on case studies of classes that taught the new curriculum, okay? And then there's this sort of broader generalization. The article doesn't directly follow the social science model that we've seen in a lot of the other books, essays that we've read for this class, but it does sort of loosely follow this model and is structured with subheadings, so it's a sort of descriptive assessment of the essay in terms of its organization. How do the writers refer to themselves? What kinds of rhetorical techniques do they use? What do they use as evidence? And so on. Okay, so this is a descriptive rhetorical analysis of the article. How is it put together? What is its purpose? Who is its audience? How is it put together? Okay. The third section, and this is the last section, okay, is how you are going to use it. Okay, now this should not be a general, this is going to be really useful for my article because it talks about my subject, okay, paragraph. You want to be specific and concrete here, okay. So this article is useful in my study, particularly of what skills students take with them from their first year writing classes. So the person who's writing the entry for this evaluative bibliography is working on this topic, okay, specifically. What skills students take with them from a first year writing class. Okay, that's what the author of this evaluative bibliography is going to be researching, okay? So this article is useful for this specific thing that I'm studying. Why is it useful? Well, it provides a discussion of why students can't transfer many of the lessons they learn in first year writing classes, okay? And it helps me understand how rhetorical knowledge and an appreciation of the complexity of writing is something that they can take with them, okay? The case study examples in particular are useful to help me see what students learned, and that will be helpful to them later. Okay. So the third section is a paragraph that articulates how specifically it's going to function within your work. Okay. So we have 3 parts here, right? three parts in the annotation, and then you have the actual bibliographic entry here. Now, so that's the content. The form is another thing entirely, okay? So we also want to think about the form that we're working in, right? Now remember, this should be formatted according to MLA style, and MLA 8 has just come out, so some things will look a little bit different, okay? But basically, the structure will look like this. You have your name, okay? You have the class, you have the professor, okay? You have the date, okay? What's today's date? Okay? You're going to have a title, which is always going to be the same, okay? And I'm just taking out all of the spaces here so that I can show you how to do this all at once, right? Or relatively speaking all at once, okay? So you have your annotated bibliography here as the title, okay? You're going to center this. You're going to do a few things for formatting, okay? Annotated bibliography should be centered, okay? Your bibliographic entry, right, should be formatted using what's called hanging indentation. And there are a couple ways to do this. Okay, that's one way. The other way is to grab your ruler, just like that. Okay? And then you also have to indent these guys and separate out the paragraphs so that we know these are three separate paragraphs. Okay? As you can tell, here it's hard to tell. Okay? All right. Now, normally all of this would be double spaced. Okay, normally all of this would be double spaced, right? But because this is a specific kind of writing, and you often have paragraphs within this, okay, you are not required to double space. Okay, you can make it look just like this. Okay, now you also will want to put up here your last name and page number. Okay. Make sure that it is in the same font face, okay? It should be Times New Roman. Everything should be Times New Roman. Okay, 12-point font, same thing down here. Okay. So that's what it should look like. Now, if you're going to have 3 articles in your annotated bibliography. This one is authored by the first author's name, Downs. So if you have something authored by somebody named Addison, then it will go here. And if you have something that's authored by somebody named, okay, Smith, okay, it goes here. So it's in alphabetical order. All right, so it would go A, B, C, D, etc., etc. Okay, all right, so that's the evaluative annotated bibliography. Okay, definitely do begin to work on this. For next class, you should bring in a draft of your annotated evaluative bibliography, and you should have at least one annotation done. Okay, so you're going to bring in some multiple copies of your evaluative annotated bibliography draft. Right? Bring in your sources as well, physical, concrete, hard copies, okay? Just one copy of each of your sources. You don't have to make a whole bunch for everybody, just one copy for you, but it should be printed out, okay? And you're going to want to bring in, I think I have 5 copies of your evaluative your draft bibliography entry, okay? So just take a look at Canvas and make sure that you are aware of what you need to bring in, but we're going to be talking about the evaluative bibliography, and we're going to be looking at your draft bibliography and seeing how to strengthen it. Okay? All right, so that's all for me for right now. I'm going to do another little video on the expectations for the presentation. Okay? Thanks.